In this session, we will talk about the ethics. The different ethical theories will be introduced here. This is a very nice quote from Heinz Pagels, who is an American physicist. He says that science cannot resolve moral conflicts, but it can help to more accurately frame the debates around these conflicts. Very important to see. So, we're not trying to find out or put an end to conflicts or different point of views, but it can help you to have a fair ground to clash those ideas with the dialectic method, okay? So what we have here is that, and that fair grounds frame is drawn by science or scientific approach. That's what he means. We live in a society. Since we're here, we live in a society. None of us live isolated from people like Robinson Crusoe or something in an island. We live with other people. So since we live in a community, it has lots of benefits for us. For example, we don't harvest. For example, if you're a doctor, you don't need to worry about harvesting, or you don't need to worry about transportation, for example, like driving a plane or something like this. These are other professions, or you don't have to deal with energy. Everyone is responsible with their own profession, and in the grounds of trade, or switching between each other, we share those responsibilities. And of course, the other people do not care about the medical approaches, for example. We just go to a hospital and get service. These are the ultimate benefits of living in a society. We can specialize in our own areas, and it helps us to live otherwise impossible lifetime. But it also has some costs. It means that we need to give away some of our freedom, maybe to a degree, as long as we need to have ourselves aligned with the other members of the community. So we shouldn't make noise, we shouldn't disturb other people. These are just the most straightforward ones, but that's the idea about the costs, or those costs can be in like a tax or something too. So these are all costs or burdens that we need to bear. Here, responsible community members respect other community members' core values. We will discuss about these core values later in this session, the basic human rights. So we need to respect other members of the community. Otherwise, it means that there is no point in discussion anymore, or there is no point in this lecture anymore. We assume that we are responsible community members who respect other community members' core values. That's the idea. And moving to the ethical point of view requires a decision that, we need to accept this without question, like 2 + 2 is 4, that's it. We shouldn't argue about this. See, it's very important. Other people and their core values are also worthy of respect, not only ours. Other people's and their core values are also worthy of respect. This is important. Okay. But there are different ethical theories, many of them. Then what to do? Which one is more proper? Which one is more useful? Which one fits more to societies we live in? What should we do? Let's try to answer this question. In order to answer to this important question, we need to define some terms. What question we're trying to answer? We're trying to answer which ethical theories are proper for using it for ethical analysis. What is a society? Society is, again, a broad definition, association of people organized under a system of rules designed to advance the good of its members over time. So we're seeking benefit here, right? Look at this. There is a balance or trade-off between benefits and costs. We need to have some benefits here, and those are the costs. If our costs are huge, what is the point of living in a society at all? Of course, we need to have a large advantage here and less cost. So this is a better community that we would prefer to live in. So that's the idea. We're trying to increase that. That's why people form societies and live together. That's the idea. And here, in this society, there is not only cooperation between the members of society. This is nice. We do this. We mentioned about this. But there is also competence here. When does this happen? Especially when dividing limited benefits between the members of society. Some of them are trivial, not important competitions. For example, suppose that there is a premiere or there is a concert of your favorite rock band or something, and there are limited tickets for this. So there's a competition between the members of society who are interested in this. It's trivial, it's not important. However, some of them are significant. The competition between companies, for example, lots of people get affected. Some of them, it results in unemployment, whatever. These are significant competitions for some positions in society, maybe. So these are also significant. It can result in many negative scenarios. And every society has rules of conduct describing what people ought to and ought not to do in various situations. These are defined. I mean, every society has its own nature. And these rules can be can be related with the morality that we have here. As if you remember from the start of lecture, we can use morality and ethics. It's instead of each other throughout the lecture. What if you have multiple society memberships? When you think about a society, do not think about it as being a citizen of a country. Okay, I'm Turkish, but for example, if you're a fan of a particular football club or something, it is also another type of membership. And having multiple society memberships, of course we all have multiple society memberships, it can result in moral dilemmas. This is normal. Suppose that someone is a pacifist. He dislikes weapons. He doesn't even want to touch any weapon or something. But suppose that he's a member of a country where being a soldier in an army, serving in army is mandatory. You need to do it. So they are drafted in army. As you see, then multiple society memberships can clash. This is quite common. You can give many examples about that. And ethics is the philosophical study of morality. We discussed this in the first session, I guess. This is a very good analogy, and what you see here is an image. It's a very pretty one. I like this. Let's try to understand what do we mean by doing ethics. Here society corresponds to, or members of society corresponds to car drivers here. You see, these are the members. And morality is the road network that we have in the city. See, these are the allowed places. Every car should be traveling on the roads. And doing ethics, the people on the balloons are the people who are doing ethics, making analysis, ethical analysis, you see. And they evaluate the individual roads, okay? Okay, are those roads proper for our better? And they can discuss the quality of the entire road network. I mean, is such a road network better? What if we have roads like this? Could it be better or something like this? Okay, they're just discussing the entire moral system as well. It's possible, and they also can judge the drivers on and off the road. You see, I mean, look, he's making a mistake. Like you can also analyze or argue about this as well. And they can even evaluate various ways of constructing new road networks, like different types of moral systems are possible. You see, these are the people who are doing ethics in the third dimension here on this two-dimension real world. You can see doing ethics or philosophical study of morality like this. I think it's a good picture that summarizes what we try to do. Now, there may be a definite solution, but observers will most probably and naturally have difficulty on agreement. Why? Because they most probably have different point of views. This is normal again. Look at this. Everyone here is looking at the same thing, but the point of views, their point of views are different. They might see a different image here because they're looking from a different direction, different position. That's the idea. So we also have different point of views about life or about our culture. That's what makes the difference. But we need to do this in an efficient way, or continue discussion in an efficient way. How can we do this? Okay. It's not easy because changing society results in many previously unknown occurrences, especially some people exploit this negative parts like spams or pop-ups. What we have here are even not comprehensible before. In these moments, what is good, neutral, and bad should be decided. I mean, this behavior is bad. This behavior is, neutral. Okay, I don't care. Or this behavior is bad. How can you make a distinction here? That's the question. And existing moral guidelines in those situations sometimes old-fashioned or unclear. Sometimes your more road network here seems old-fashioned to evaluate such type of scenarios. So you need better road networks here to analyze those situations. And usually what happens in the end, we are left on our common wisdom unless we learn how to work through these problems ourselves. If there is no other way, you're just left on your common wisdom to make a decision like, okay, the event A is, or the case A is good or bad or neutral. If you don't have any reference, you will left with your common wisdom. Let's see. Now let's take a look at some scenarios for you to evaluate. East Dakota State Police is trying to prevent speeders, which is a common problem there, and they installed sophisticated video cameras throughout the roads all over the state, which is sensitive enough to give an image recognition, let's say, image of the speeders with only 5 miles per hour mistake, sensitivity. And they also put the license plate number with those pictures, a high resolution picture of the driver as well. And it sends an automatic speeding ticket by matching with the photo evidence to your home. So after they use it for 6 months, the speeding around the state reduced by 90%, which is very good. But at the same time, FBI request real-time access to those video cams as well. Okay, the first installation purpose was speeders, but FBI sees that it's very useful. Can we use that as well? And after 3 more months, 5 terrorist organization members are also arrested as well, because all of the movement of the vehicles there are being recorded. So what FBI has done is right, wrong, or neutral. Just pause this video and have a moment to think about it. Do you think anything wrong here, or is everything great? Think about it. And here, another scenario for you to exercise. You are a senior software engineer. Hopefully you will be that senior software engineer in maybe 5 years or 10 years later. You will be one. And suppose that you're working in a smartphone software business and you're working on an application about sales codes and customer invoices. The product will be put on market next week, but you realize that there are several bugs. You report them to your project leader, but he argues that those are minor bugs. I mean, let's just release the product, let's not wait. But in fact, retesting requires 1 month. However, there's a fierce competition in mobile industry, and particularly in this market as well. I mean, being first, put your product as soon as possible on the market is quite advantageous for your company. And you know that if you fall behind the rival company, you might bear the risk of being left out of business. Will you go ahead and do what your project leader tells you, or will you try to force other ways to make those retesting to deliver a better product? What would you do? What is wrong here if you take a decision? What is the right decision to take here? Suppose that someone goes for putting this on the market. Did he do right or wrong? Okay, pause the video and think about it. And what else? How can we extend this question? Suppose that this is a medical app that have some records about the patient's drugs or patient's test results or something like this. Would you approach, or I mean, in this time, will you decide on something else? Think about it. Pause the video and think about it. Now the thing is, in the end, we are asked this question: how did you decide on right or wrong? Think about it in both scenarios when you make those exercises. And were your answers consistent with each other in both scenarios here? Did you use the same approach intuitively, or did you behave differently in different scenarios? Now, okay, this is the case. Did you use the same methodology in both scenarios? And let's ask this most important question here. We're not trying to reach a conclusion, but if someone disagrees with your point of view, how would you try to convince that person? Not by brute force, hopefully. How would you try to convince that person if he says that, okay, you said that this is wrong, but someone else is saying that, no, this is right? How would you try to convince that person with the opposite idea? That's the important question that we need to ask. Now, ethics is the rational, systematic analysis of conduct that can cause benefit or harm to other people. Okay, we analyze cases here that can result in something good or something bad for people, for other people. The critical question is, ethics answer this question, why? How? By reasoning. I mean, we're trying to answer question why. Why this behavior is wrong? Okay, if you do this and do this, it is wrong. But why? And how should you do this? By reasoning. That's the idea. And it requires the possibility of alternatives on people's actions. If you want to make an ethical analysis on people's actions, it means that they need to have some alternatives. They need to make some decisions on people's actions. Now let's take a look at this. Suppose that you're choosing a color for your new car. Okay, it's blue or red or white or black or whatever. Does this need ethical analysis? Can you make an ethical analysis on this? Of course not. This is preference. This is preference. I mean, you're choosing a color for your new car, that's it. And what about this? God forbid. Hitting a pedestrian on the sidewalk with your new red car while trying to steer off from another pedestrian who you came across on the road. Okay, this is a disaster scenario, but okay, you faced with suddenly you see that someone is just maybe a kid or something run in front of you on the road, and you drive to the right, and unfortunately you hit a pedestrian on the sidewalk. Does this require ethical analysis? Can we say that what we did was right or wrong? Does this worth analyzing? Think about it. No. Now this is called reflex action. You see, you did this on a reflex. Okay, if you go in detail, maybe you achieved your reflexes can be questioned, but mainly this is reflex action. You didn't decide on anything here. You didn't have any alternatives here. However, what if you were intoxicated while driving? Right. Now we can have ethical analysis on this, because you might not choose to do this way. Or what if I didn't sleep well that night, and I was driving with lack of sleep. Okay, again, we're in the area of ethics that require analysis. Now I can say that what I did was wrong or right. Okay, so it is important to note that in order to make an ethical analysis, the situation requires the possibility of alternatives on people's actions. If we look at the overview of several ethical theories, it goes way back in history, at least 2,400 years back. Socrates' student Plato, Plato is a student of Socrates, he made the study Crito. His student explains here that Socrates makes ethical reasoning about why he ought to face the unjust death penalty. You can look at his defense in the court of Socrates. It's very interesting. In fact, he argues that I need to face this unjust death penalty instead of taking advantage of going exile with family. See, he discusses this. It's not something new, ethical analysis. Okay, ethics is very important now. Since we're living in 2000s or something, we need... No, ethics was imported 3,000 years back as well. It's as old as humanity, maybe. Ethics was important. Instead of, because he had the possibility of going exile, but he argues that no, I need to stay here and get executed. It's very interesting. Take a look at it. So, A good ethical theory, what makes a good ethical theory? It enables people to affect a diverse audience with the use of dialectic method. And it is framed around the question why. Okay, what do we mean by diverse audience? I always give this example. Suppose that you're sitting around the table, and here is yourself. It's a Turkish person. Here is a Japanese person. Here is, let's say, someone from Peru, for example, and here is someone from, let's say, Mars, okay, who lives in a colony at Mars. Try to convince the other people with your arguments here on this table. How? By the dialectic method. I defend that the ethical, let's say, this action is wrong because why? Based on this and this and this, we need to use rational ethical theories here, and then it is that person's, let's say, turn to talk, and he will say, it is right because of this and this and this. Then it is your turn again, or his turn again. So the conversation goes back and forth between the two two people here who are defending their own verse. This is called the dialectic method. Do we expect this finish with a conclusion like, okay, he says that, okay, I'm defeated, like your defense is better than mine? No, we're not trying to do this. This dialectic method or this conversation can go on infinitely. That's the idea. We are not expecting to end, but we're expecting this to be framed around scientific approach or around rational ethical theories. That's the idea. It's a very important thing that you need to keep in mind. Okay, let's start with several ethical theories. The first set of ethical theories that we will discuss are the not useful ones. Let's see the bad ones first. Okay, let's see the bad ones first, and let's take a good ones later. The subjective relativism, it depends on me. There are no universal moral norms of right or wrong, and you agree the claim that what is right for you may not be right for me. It's your opinion, it's my opinion. You think that it is right, I think that it is wrong, so that's it, that's normal. What are the benefits of this? Intelligent people can have totally opposite definitions about moral issues, for example, abortion and euthanasia, whatever. Okay, I'm just giving the same examples, but I'm not planning to discuss them, but just for example. And ethical debates are pointless at difficult problems. In such problems, you can debate about it, but it is pointless. Usually both sides are right in such problems. So these are, let's say, the benefits of subjective relativism. However, we need to keep in mind that these are the negative sides. People are very good at rationalizing bad behavior. Yeah, so okay, I choose this because I'm in this situation. It's right for me. People do this, and there is no moral distinction as long as we agree what is good for us without any universal norms. For example, Adolf Hitler was right on his own, and also Mother Teresa was right on her own, because they were just doing what they believed good for themselves. Okay, he killed say thousands of people. He resulted in the death of thousands of people. And Mother Teresa sacrificed her all life helping people in a monastery or something. If you extend this, like subjective relativism, with this quote, I can decide what is right for me as long as my actions don't hurt anyone else. So it means that you're thinking about other people's core values. Now it's not subjective relativism anymore. So that extension you cannot make in subjective relativism. If you make this extension, it means that you're not talking about subjective relativism anymore. So forget about it. It is not aligned with subjective. You cannot say this in subjective relativism. And you should keep in mind that subjective relativism cannot be regarded as tolerance. Okay, you can be a tolerant person, but what if some people decide to be intolerant? I mean, yes, I have a tolerance for everyone else's point of views, but what if other people are intolerant? Then again, you cannot assume that each people in discussion are tolerant people. You cannot assume this. It would be too naive to think like that. And individuals themselves decide on the right or wrong, and there is no need for logic and reasoning here. As you see, you don't ground or you don't answer the question, why here? So we can conclude that subjective relativism is self-defeating at a debate. If someone says this, no need for further discussion, and it breaks the dialectic method. So it is rejected as a workable ethical theory. In Turkish, maybe it can be corresponded to this word. Suppose that you're discussing an issue with your partner and you say this, okay, in my opinion, this is true. And you can think that it is wrong for you, but in my opinion, it's true. No need to discuss it anymore. Okay, it's a self-defeating enemy. It ends the discussion directly if you carry the dialectic, if you try to make the argument like this. Okay, so it is rejected as a workable ethical theory. And what about the other one? The second one is cultural relativism. It is society-based relativism. Now, not individual, but society. Okay, we Turkish people think that this is wrong. We Japanese people think that it is right, or something like this. And right and wrong is based on society's moral guidelines here. It is based on the society we live here. And his father is Franz Boas, who is a German-American anthropologist, and this is he introduced this notion, which is called cultural relativism. It's pretty interesting. There is a study done by, this is the book of them, Charles Hampton Turner and Fons Tompanars in 2000. This is book. There is a study in it. They just analyze a hypothetical scenario. Suppose that you're traveling with your friend who is driving the car and you're sitting on the passenger seat, and suddenly your friend hits a pedestrian on the road. Okay, and he is dead, for example, and no other evidence or witness here, only you, no one else. And here you know that, or it is known that the speed limit is 20 miles per hour, but you know that your friend was driving at 35 miles per hour at that time. Suppose that it is an isolated, or it's a remote forest road or something like this. No other evidence. And the lawyer is preparing a defense for your friend, and he asked to only witness you about the situation. What was the speed of your friend at the time of the incident? He will ask you, is it more than 20 miles per hour, or what is it? Okay, he asked. Will you say the truth to that person? This is the question. And they asked this to many different, this question to many different countries. Not Turkey, okay? Not Turkey. But they asked this to this. Now, pause the video and try to make a guess here. Which percent of people will tell the truth here, other than defending their friend? Okay. Here, when you're thinking about this, maybe it might affect you. What right has your friend expect you to protect him? This might affect your answer. Does he have a definite right? Does he have some right in this situation? Someone is dead. Or does he have no right? You need to think about this. What do you think were the ratios here? Yeah, it's very interesting. 90% of Norwegians will tell the truth. 75% of Americans will tell the truth, and so as Canadians. And Mexico, in Mexico it's 50-50. And in Yugoslavia only 10% will be telling the truth. And in Turkey, think about it. Just think about it. What can the ratio be here? You see? And now let's extend the question. Suppose that you put a number here. Put a number for all of the countries, doesn't matter, okay. And let's extend the question. This is my call, okay? This is not in the text, but my idea, I extend this question. What if there is another sworn witness with you outside? Another one saw this situation. Will you tell the truth or will you still defend your friend? Will these ratios change? I just extend the question, okay? Think about it as well. Pause the video and think about it. And we're trying to emphasize cultural relativism here. What are the positives or let's say advantages of cultural relativism? Different social contexts demand different moral guidelines. Even our point of views can change. Our population, we have almost 8 billion people here on Earth, and our point of view has shifted from food stocking to saving the planet. Like, okay, still some people are starving, but mainly we're just killing the Earth. That's the idea. And what else? It is arrogant for one society to judge another. Yes, you can technologically be advanced, but no society is more intelligent or more superior than the other. Okay, we can say that we do like this in this century, and what they did in Egypt in 200 BC was so funny or so, pointless, so illogical. We cannot judge like this other society, which makes sense because situations can change and consideration. Suppose that two different societies faced with a drought, okay? They lack water to harvest or something for food. And two societies, A and B, come up with different solutions here. One of them, let's say, decide on building aqueducts to transfer water from one point to another. Okay, this is let's say solution approach to the problem. And the other one starts sacrificing human for example, rain. As you see, what is right or wrong can be different, but point of view can be shared. You can easily see that one of them is a logical solution and the other one is pretty, unlogical or not logical solution here. So point of views can be shared. And suppose that if someone is new in society, how can you learn this? Are you going to poll people? How can the responder explain why some action is wrong? Why, okay, what do you do for drought here? Okay, we sacrifice people. Why do you do that? Can you answer this? You can refer it to laws, but moral values can change rapidly. New technological advancements, and faced with new technological advancements, even groups in the same society might disagree. For example, we still have many disagreements about property rights, digital intellectual property rights. For example, sharing copyrighted music, for example. It is common. These are the handicaps of cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is closed for or is not open to evolution. Usually these point of views not bending and does not evolve. For example, there was a race bias in 1960s in America and resulting in segregance. Some people are reserved, some places were reserved for white people and black people could not enter there, resulting in segregance. Or some maybe districts in a city are also facing segregance maybe. The people who didn't obey those rules now, okay, they were clearly acting against cultural relativism, but they are heroes now because what they defended was, in fact, universally right. So it is not open for evolution, the cultural relativism. And if you rely on cultural relativism, cultural conflicts, because they represent different cultures, remain unsolved. For example, the most straightforward one is the war between Israel and Philistine. Okay, one of them is defending continuous expansion, and the other one's option is only war, just resistance. As you see, they can never conclude because two different societies and they have different moral norms, right and wrong, and how can they convince each other? Don't forget this. Don't forget the table I introduced here in a few moments before. You see this table. Suppose that you're trying to convince this person in Mars who lives in a colony. Okay, we live in Earth, in Turkey. Okay, I mean, if you rely on cultural relativism here, there is no point in discussion anyway. It's pretty similar to subjective relativism as well. You just have more people behind you. That's it. Just think about it. Okay. And don't forget about this. This is very important again. Judging that many options could be acceptable, what we do here in Mars is right. What we do here in Turkey is right. What we do here in Japan is right. Judging that many options could be acceptable leads to this fallacy. Any option to be acceptable, like this is called the many-any fallacy here. See, many-any fallacy. Read this on Wikipedia. And this is a very nice quote here, taken from the text. Don't forget, there are many good ways to add comments to a program. You're familiar with writing programs, right? But that doesn't mean that any commenting style is good. We cannot say this, okay? It's something silly. Are you crazy? I mean, yes, that you can add many good ways for commenting, but that doesn't mean that any of them is good. I mean, you can find many different solutions for for the drought challenge, for example, for the let's say pollution challenge in Earth, for example. But that doesn't mean that any solution to that will be good. Like let's start sacrificing human or something like this. I mean, are you crazy? That doesn't mean that any style is good. And in fact, societies do share core values. Be careful. Look at them. They are very powerful argument. Newborn care. Suppose that, just imagine about a society who doesn't care about newborns. Imagine a society who always lie to each other. Imagine a society where murdering the other members of society is not prohibited. It's free. They kill each other. They kill the newborns. I mean, can a society like this exist? It will eventually extinct itself. I mean, they will, destroy themselves in a few moments. It will not be a society anymore. You see? It is a powerful response to relativity concept. Okay, in our society this is normal, in the other society it can be absurd, but no. I mean, you cannot go ahead like this. This is a starting point for universal ethical theory based on core values of humans. You will see them again throughout the lecture. There are, in fact, our core values which are independent from our culture. And finally, it is indirectly based on reasoning. We do not do reasoning here. Just accept it. I mean, since you're again doing relativism, you say that in my opinion, in our opinion here, you behave in a certain way because it's why you're supposed to do. But not because it makes sense or not because you make a reasoning about this. It's like the traditions like we have in our culture as well. Do you have any cultural traditions? It can be regional as well. For example, in Izmir, in Asian region, for example, we have different traditions from, let's say, northern regions. But they are just traditions, not because they are not the product of, they are not the result of a ethical reasoning process. Just think about some of them. Finally, we can say that there is a weakness in ethical persuasion towards other societies here. So it cannot be used in the dialectic method, and it is rejected as a workable ethical theory as well. Good. So I think this can be summarized as the word like this. Instead of saying, in my opinion, we say, in our opinion, like we have lots of people here. If you have lots of people there, that doesn't mean that a particular action is right or wrong. I mean, you cannot make something wrong right with the superior numbers, with the ethical approach. That's the idea. The next one is the one you're very familiar with, the divine command theory. Here, there are three major religions on earth which are based on single God, and in those religions usually there are some common approaches where good actions are matched with the will of God, like revere your parents, like behave nice to people, help people, and bad actions are designed as contrary to will of God, like lying, stealing, murdering. They are just sins. They are categorized as sins. That's the idea with divine command theory. Of course, the religions always suggest good things. Other than the extreme religions, of course. We just talk about general religions or majority of religions. But although the divine command theory approach suggests good behaviors, we can easily see that many holy books and many teachings disagree with each other, even in single God religions. Even in the same religion, there are many different sects within those religions, and they may contradict with each other. We see this. I think it would not be wrong to say that the religions are or cultural relativism is a subset of divine command theory, a larger version of cultural relativism, I guess. And what to do about a multi-religion society? Think of a society which has multiple religions in it. Okay, Turkey is just one of them as well. What to do in such a situation? How can you convince other people from different religions? And some moral problems aren't directly addressed in those holy teachings or holy books. For example, internet. It has not been discussed explicitly in any of the books, so you need analogy, and it relies on personal insight of people, which makes it again left on common wisdom too. And be careful. Divine command theory is not based on reasoning. We're not seeking the answer to question why here. Again, it is based on pure obedience. There has been many stories in those holy books which are pretty similar with each other, like the story of Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, and earlier stories between Kabil and Habil, and like this, although they all try to underline some important or good human behaviors, promote good human behaviors, they are not based on reasoning. This is the major problem about divine command theory as whole, I guess. And there is no point in argument if beliefs are different. So we're in the same situation with the previous ones, and it is rejected as a workable ethical theory. I think it corresponds to maybe this word I prefer in Turkish. Like, okay, we have more people behind us. I mean, I think this particular action is right because, like, there are lots of people and countries behind us. Like, I'm sorry, but it wouldn't make a wrong action right if you have, again, superior numbers. That's the problem with the divine command theory. And the next one is ethical egoism. Ethical egoism is in sharp contrast to divine command theory, where it suggests that each person should focus exclusively on his or her self-interest. So they try to base their behaviors on maximum long-term benefits for just themselves. So it means that they will just focus on their own good. It is based on the principle of trade on all grounds. If we see a benefit from a particular action in the long term, we choose to do it. For example, a friend of yours asks you to help him about fixing his car. Like he asks for some money, for example, $100. You give to him just because you lend $100 to your friend, because that you travel with him too. Otherwise, you won't help him. That's the idea with the ethical egoism. As long as you're getting benefit from this, you will help him. Otherwise, you won't. That's the basic idea about it. The positive sides are, it's practical, it's pretty straightforward, as you see. Since we have only one life, if everyone maximizes their own lives, so everyone could end up with good outputs. Let's see, maybe it's arguable. And let other people take care of themselves instead of relying on charities, because often a good deed may backfire. If you help people, maybe they get addicted to it. Maybe this is also another important argument. And it is Adam Smith's idea here, which comes into individuals do best for themselves unless you put pressure on them, and it results in community good as well. For example, the entrepreneurs, they create many jobs for other people. I mean, this has been discussed in work of Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. If you have time or if you have interest, I suggest you to read it as well. It's a pretty interesting one. And all well-known moral principles are inevitably based on ethical egoism, like lying, cheating in long term have long consequences as well. It is taken from the text, but I leave it up to you to, discuss whether it's questionable or not. I don't see it as a major positive thing, but okay, why not? And there are many drawbacks of ethical egoism, like an easy moral philosophy may not be the best moral philosophy. Okay, people in fact do care in short-term benefits and not in benefits at all. Like sometimes people just party, take a short break from what they're doing in order to have, let's say, relief, other than making lots of plans for their college degree plans or something. People do care in short-term benefits as well. We see it around us, at least majority of people. And we do know a lot about what is good for someone else, what is a help, because as long as they're based on core values that we will discuss, charity leads to independence, in fact. Suppose that a person comes from a poor family, he doesn't have access to education grounds the kids around his own age. So why not help him with the education that can result in a better benefit for him and for the society as well? And There are two drawbacks of self-interest focus can lead to immoral behavior as well. Suppose that a poor woman who is struggling with malnutrition goes to a doctor and he writes him some vitamins and probiotics or some support medicines and asks her for the price of the session, like may suppose that it is $25, but suppose that the woman has only $12 and he takes what she has, although he is a rich guy, let's say. But in that case, he will just contribute to the bad being of this patient, that she will have trouble in purchasing those supplements that the doctor advised, for example. So it is morally, maybe it conflicts with their vision or their hypocrites saying of doctors, for example. Maybe it's a problem. Or self-interest focus can lead to disadvantage at all. If you think about yourself, this can be pictured in prisoner's dilemma, for example. Maybe it is also related to game theory as well. Suppose that you and your friend are in a bad situation, you get caught doing something. If you confess and they put you in separate rooms, you're not aware from each other, but they just interrogate you separately from each other. If you confess and your friend doesn't, you get 6 months and he gets 10 years. That is the deal, or that is the procedure they ask you to carry. And your friend, they tell the same to your friend as well. If he confesses and you don't, he gets 6 months and you get 10 years now. And if you both confess, you get 5 years. And if neither of you confess, you both get 2 years. I mean, here you cannot solve this problem directly in, let's say, self-interest focus. It's somewhat related to game theory. You can check it in Wikipedia as well about game theory to maximize total benefit of affected parties. And other moral principles are superior. Again, it is open for discussion. Suppose that you see a person drowning at sea and you just evaluate the, let's say, the advantages and disadvantages of you in the long term by just diving in the water and helping her. Like it's silly, okay? Yeah, like maybe okay, my shirt will be wet, but the people will be grateful that I saved her or something. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We can see that saving a human life is more superior, definitely, than evaluating every particular situation here. And several other research studies show that people who take the good of others, who care about the good of others into account, live happier lives. For example, Framingham Heart Study, it covers like 5,000 people and lasted for 20 years. It notes that those people who help the other people have better health conditions than the other ones, like the more selfish ones, let's say. And we can easily see that ethical egoism is clearly against the ethical point of view here, that individuals must consider the good of the other community members in order to reap the benefits of, or to take advantage of the benefits of living in a community at all. I mean, you cannot go ahead and neglect all the other members' values. That's the idea. So it is also rejected as a workable ethical theory. So far we introduced 4 different ethical theories which are not workable, which are not practical. Okay.